I was born overweight practically. Now, when I was really little, I didn't have a weight problem, but seriously, by the time I hit 9, I was already developing one. So I don't have memories of really not feeling too big in my body. And then when I moved into the 8th grade, I had been bullied for years. I still, all right, so in the 6th grade, every day there was a boy who would chant these songs about my weight. And God loved the teacher. I mean, back then I didn't love her, but now I'm sure she was just done with that asshat and the way he acted every day. And she just let him let loose on me every afternoon. I'd go home and cry. And then by the time I graduated 8th grade, I was at 210 pounds. My mom was a single mother. She just, did not have money. It was really hard to make ends meet. So we grew up in the McDonald's drive-thru or the Hardee's drive-thru or the KFC drive-thru. And then on a big splurge, we would go to the Shoney's buffet. And I can always remember her saying, eat all you can because we don't know when the next meal is. So that was pretty much the way that I grew up. And I learned a lot of habits like, the only time the family's together is when we eat. My mom worked like several jobs. And so those things stuck with me. And, you ate past full. That was what you were supposed to do because you didn't always know when the next meal was. When I was in high school, I had to buy my own lunch and stuff. My mom didn't have much money to give me. And so I could afford a Dr. Pepper and Cheetos every day. That's what I would have for lunch. Then when people say like I get depressed and stuff, I really feel you. I tried to take my life at the age of 17. I took 56 pills, I think they said, something along those lines. I was, in it to win it on that one. I had to have my stomach pumped. I was in a coma for 2 days, all kinds of stuff. Almost missed my graduation, but they allowed me to come out of the hospital to go to graduation. So I did. During that, I was dating this guy, ran off and eloped at 18, thinking that was a good idea. And that's really where I had always been overweight, but I think that part of my life is where I truly struggled. I was totally eating, it was all about the food, all the time. I don't even think I was ever like a binge eater or anything. I just literally ate junk. I did not know how to cook. When my ex-husband and I got married, we would go to Bonanza and we would just eat up one time a day. And then we would go to Kroger and we would buy a container full of sugar cookies and we would eat that the rest of the night. It was all we could afford. We could go to the Bonanza for $3.99 a piece and then buy for $1.99 a box of sugar cookies. We did that for 4 straight months. Well, he and I didn't last very long, thank God. But we divorced within 2 years. And then I was, back to just struggling. I had given up college to work because he didn't work. And I was like, well, somebody's got to make the money. And I was always scrappy, So I had a really good high school education. So I feel like I'm smart, but I, just had to give it up. It was either that or not eat. So I decided I was going to do like my mom. My mom sacrificed for us. And I was like, I don't want to go hungry. So I'm going to go out and get a job, right? So, and then I met my husband and everything changed. He loved me no matter what size I was. I never felt a moment of shame around him. I don't know. I just knew that he was the guy for me within the first few dates. And we have a really fun story. So then we decide we're going to get married, right? And we do. And within 2 months, we want a baby. My brother had had a baby a year before. And so we were going to the doctor, and they were like, oh, you need to be prepared. It'll probably take a year to get pregnant. 2 weeks later, 2 times trying, we're pregnant. Well, next thing I know, I'm doing like I normally do. I'm eating at McDonald's and, now it's like a free, get out of jail free card. This is when I'm supposed to be fat. This is when I'm supposed to get to eat all this food and I don't even have to feel guilty about it now. Well, then I'm at 250 plus by the time I have my son. I had been in my 200s. I had been to 250 a couple good times even before that. So it wasn't like it was my first, ride on the rodeo horse. So I have Logan. And then next thing I know, a year goes by and depression is creeping back in. That was I swear to God, that year was even harder than the year that I attempted suicide, because I knew I wasn't going to do that. But I also felt like this was as good as it was going to get. And so one day I'm sitting there and I'm just done. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. The Price is Right's coming on. I'm laid out on the couch and my 1-year-old is sitting there playing. And I can tell by the way he waddles up to me, he wants me to play. And I literally said the words I never wanted to say ever. And that was, "Mommy is too tired to play." I remember my mom saying that to me all my life. And she had good excuses. She was working. She was tired. And here I was, stay-at-home mom with a 1-year-old and fat. And that was the only thing that was keeping me in that pain. So my husband comes home that night and I am like this. I'm like, oh my God, something's got to change, in the drama and just up in it. Right. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And he looked at me and he was like, well, I know you can. He looked at me like, duh. It was compassionate, but it was at the same time like, the only thing standing in your way is you. That is it. You are so smart. You can do things. He's always believed in me. And it was like, all of a sudden, it was like, I kind of why am I not believing in me? Why am I just not deciding that I can figure this out? If I can figure out how to have a kid and how to move up without a degree and all this other kind of stuff, I sure to God can figure out how to lose some weight. So I had no plan. I had no trainer. I had no fucking clue what I was going to do. But I knew that I could just start with something. And that is exactly what I teach my clients. The very first decision that has to be made is that you are willing to start with something. You don't always need a fancy ass plan to get your weight off. You really need to believe that you are going to keep trying at it, that you are going to do it, that you are going to make decisions, that you are going to mess up, you are going to fuck up, you are going to do whatever it takes, but it doesn't matter how many times it doesn't work right. That just means it wasn't this time. It was like, I just need another step. I just need another step. And that is exactly where I started. People ask me all the time, they say, what diet did you do? I did my diet. That's it. That's what I teach my clients. I seriously teach them, you have to figure this out. Now, I guide you through it just like I guided myself, but diet and losing weight is like thumbprints. It is so individual. Do not let somebody out there sell you on the idea that there is a cookie cutter program that is going to solve all your problems. There is not one. If there was one, every one of us would be on it right now. And somebody would be sitting on the world's biggest pile of cash that ever lived. So what I did was the next day, so my husband is like, yeah, I think you can do it. I'm all in. What do you need help with? Because that was the other beautiful thing, was that for a long time, I used him as my excuse. He works so hard. When he comes home, he shouldn't have to watch my kid. All these things were going on in my head. And I said, well, when you come home at night, we'll get Logan down, but I'm going to go to the Y and I'm going to walk. I think I can start with that. And so I did. The next night, he came home. We fed Logan. He has always given him his baths. He was giving him his bath, and I said, okay, I'm going to the Y. 15-minute drive, 15 minutes on the treadmill at 3 miles per hour, because it was all my ass could handle. 15-minute drive home. That was my workout. And that is where it all started. That was step one of my plan. Step one of Corinne's plan was figure out something you will show up for. Now, figure out how you're going to do that tomorrow. That was it. I literally didn't have the capacity to think about a lot of other shit. The only thing my brain could be trained on and had to be trained on is next best choice, tomorrow. Not 18, it took me 18 months to lose this weight. I couldn't think about the 18 months. I couldn't think about what all was going to happen. Was I going to have loose skin? Was I going to be able to stick to this? Because my whole mindset was all about, don't start shit you ain't willing to keep doing, girl. I mean, that was it. And I don't let my clients do that. There's like, don't you start shit that you're not willing to do. If you're not willing to keep doing this, do not do it. You can't, when you are first starting to lose weight, if you were like me, I couldn't afford any more quitting. I couldn't afford any more like total failure. I could make some mistakes. Like I could be like, okay, well, I overate a little bit, but here, let me fix this system. Let me figure out why I overate. That I can handle. What I couldn't handle is any more quitting, any more starting things that I just didn't feel in my gut I could keep on going with. I wasn't there. And the majority of the women I coach are not there either. So you practice all those small wins. That's exactly what I did. So I kept going to the gym and I kept walking 15 minutes until I could walk 5 more minutes. And then a few weeks passed and I was walking a little more, walking a little faster, you know, getting comfortable. The big thing for me was I had to be comfortable at the gym because I didn't have the right clothes. I mean, I was 250 pounds. I barely had, I didn't even hardly have good workout clothes for a girl who weighed 250 pounds. I just had what I call the duty clothes. The shit I laid around in on the couch was what I showed up at the gym in. And I didn't have the look, and I worried about what other people would think and all that stuff. So I just stayed in my lane for a little while. And I'm okay with that. And I mean, seriously, to this day, I thank myself for doing that. For figuring out a place where I could handle and be comfortable and just do. And not put pressure on myself that I had to be working out like I'd been doing it forever. It wasn't going to happen. So I moved on to the elliptical after a little while because I was like, not ready for weights. I wish I had been. I wish that I would have, you know, like I tell my clients, do not be afraid of weights, but I was like not ready to go in there. So I moved on to the elliptical. So I was like, well, I can figure that machine out. And I loved it. The next thing I knew is I wanted to try running. Weight was starting to come off. Food was starting to change. I never started a crazy diet. Honestly, I just did anything that felt good. Like I knew that I could make a salad and I knew that I could eat ice cream out of a smaller bowl than a carton. I knew that I could like for a long time, we quit going out. We were like, we'll save some money. We won't go to fast food anymore. We would go out to like steakhouses and stuff every now and then, but I was like, I don't really need to be at the McDonald's anymore. Everything that I did, I was totally on board with doing and repeating. And that's what I have my clients do. It just evolved. You know, over time, when I started showing up for me, I started feeling better. And then my motivation on the inside started changing and my momentum was building. And when those two things, motivation and momentum, start building, all because you start doing some small things, next thing you know, you want to do a little bit bigger things. Then you're not afraid of the huge things. You know, I eventually moved into the weight room. I eventually started going to 5Ks. That turned into triathlons. That turned into half marathons. But it all started because I was willing to get in that treadmill for 15 minutes one day and say, this is enough. I don't have to do it all today. I got the rest of my life to figure this out. And that's so it took me 18 months to lose 100 pounds. I have kept it off for 12 years. I have had loose skin and all kinds of things like that. I have had surgeries to correct a lot of loose skin after I kept my weight off for a couple years. I started up top and worked my way down. I guess the main thing that I would want people to know is that it is the best gift I've ever given myself. Not because my body's smaller, but just all that taking care of me has given me. You know, it's improved all my relationships. It has brought me people in my life I never would have met had I not lost my weight. So many of my tribe members, some of them have been with me 10 years. Some of them have been with me 2 months. Some of them 2 days. But the girls that have been with me for a long time, I would never have met had I not decided to lose this weight. My marriage is better because I've gotten out of the way of our marriage. I have dropped the shame. I have decided to, when I took care of me, it naturally bled over to feeding my child better, stopping the obesity gene in this family. Everybody in my family is overweight. Everyone. All of it started because I decided that I was done doing hero efforts, done with restrictive diets, done with the crazy shit, and started with what can I do? And what am I willing to repeat?